Hello everyone, this is Muhammad Wasim Khan, an instructor for a course Human Resource Management. As you know, in the previous lectures we have discussed the fundamentals and basics of the human resource management. We have also discussed some of the main principles and the strategic planning and management, and we have discussed the job analysis as well. In today's lecture, we will talk about human resource planning and recruitment. After studying this chapter, we will be able to explain the main techniques that we can use in HR planning and forecasting, discuss the main internal sources of candidates and the main external sources of candidates. We will be able to explain how to recruit the job candidates, and we will discuss recruitment practices in some of the major companies in Asia. As you know, job analysis actually identify the duties and human requirements for each of the company's jobs. The next step is to decide which of these jobs you need to fill and to recruit and select the employees for them. The traditional way to envision recruitment and selection is a series of hurdles. And those hurdles may be, the particular steps in the recruitment and selection process. The first one is to decide what position to fill through workforce or personal planning and forecasting. Build a pool of candidates of these for these jobs by recruiting internal or external candidates. Have candidates complete application forms and perhaps undergo initial screening interviews. The next step is usually to use the selection tools like tests or the physical test, background investigations, and physical exams to identify viable candidates. And the last one is usually to decide who to make an offer to, or by having the supervisor and perhaps others interview the candidates. And in the last interview, usually the supervisors or the managers or the executive, managers of the company are actually the committee for an interview. Let's talk about the planning and forecasting. Employment and personal planning is extremely important, as you know about that for every process we want to start, or for a project we want to start, we need to have a planning for that. Similarly, for the human resource management, the employment or personal planning is extremely important. And personal planning or employment or workforce planning is the process of deciding what positions the firm will have to fill and how to fill them. Succession planning is usually it is a process for identifying and developing the new leaders who can replace the old leaders when they leave, retire, or die. So succession planning increases the availability of experienced and capable employees that are prepared to assume these roles as they become available. So the question is, what to forecast? We need to forecast the overall personal needs, the supply of inside candidates, and the supply of outside candidates. This figure actually links the employer's strategy to the plans. As you can see, as in the whole organization, we can have different plans like employer's functional plan, or the marketing and sales plans for for forecasting or for planning the sales, the production plans, the financial plans, and the human resource plans. As our course is a human resource management, so we would like to talk about the human resource plan here. The human resource plan may be divided or categorized into the personal plans, or the plans regarding the training and development of the human resource, or the compensation planning, or the labor relations planning, and the security and safety planning. And we have studied most of them in the previous lectures. In personal planning, we have to perform some personal forecasting, recruitment plans, and employee selection plans. So we will discuss each of them one by one. The first step in HR planning is to forecast. The basic process of forecasting the personal needs is to forecast revenues first, then estimate the size of the staff required to support this sales volume. However, a manager must also consider other strategic factors, and those factors include the projected turnover, the decisions to upgrade or downgrade products or services, productivity changes, and financial resources. There are several simple tools for projecting the personal needs, and some of the tools are here. So the forecasting tools and techniques are trend analysis, ratio analysis, scatter plot, computer forecast, and managerial judgment. So let's discuss each type of or techniques of forecasting one by one. Trend analysis. Trend analysis means studying variations in the firm's employment level over the last few years. For example, you might compute the number of employees at the end of each of the last 5 years, or perhaps the number in each subgroups like sales, production, secretarial, and administrative. So the aim is to identify trends that might continue into the future. Trend analysis can provide an initial estimate of future staffing needs, but the employment levels rarely depend just on the passage of time. Other factors like changes in the sales volume and productivity also affect the staffing needs. Carefully studying the firm's historical and current workforce demographics and voluntary withdrawals due to the retirements and resignations can help review impending the labor workforce needs. The second one is the ratio analysis. So this is another very simple technique of forecasting. Ratio analysis means making forecast based on the historical ratio between some causal factors like sales volume and the number of employees required, such as the number of salespeople. So, for example, suppose a salesperson traditionally generates $500,000 in sales. If sales revenue to the salespeople ratio remains the same, you would require 6 new salespeople next year to produce a hoped for extra, let's say, $3 million in sales. So like trend analysis, ratio analysis assumes that productivity remains about the same for instance, that you can't motivate each salesperson to produce much more than $500,000 in sales. If sales productivity were to rise or fall, the ratio of sales to salespeople would change. Let's move toward the next technique for forecasting, and that is the scatter plot. And I hope most of you would know about the scatter diagram or scatter plot. So let's talk about it here. The scatter plot actually shows graphically how two variables such as, for example, sales and your firm staffing level are related. So a scatter plot actually shows graphically the the relationship between the two variables. So if they are, then if you can forecast the business